Hi everyone, it's Ty, and welcome back to the channel where today I want to talk about my top 10 Stranger Things duos. I think a great part of what makes Stranger Things so special is the characters, but not only the characters individually, the relationships they build with one another and the character dynamics in the show. And the Duffer Brothers really seem to have a way with bringing two people that you think would be an unlikely match together. To start off with number 10, this isn't one of those cases. This is one you'd expect, a mother and her son. I have Joyce and Will. I think Joyce and Will's relationship is really essential to the plot in season 1 and season 2, but I think Joyce's relentless pursuit of finding Will in season 1 is part of what makes people fall in love with the show so much. And my favorite moments between these two would have to be just the two times that Joyce plays a part in saving Will, both at the end of season 1 and the end of season 2. Season 1, she's with Hopper, giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and CPR, and in season 2, when the particles fly out of him after they basically burn it out of him. But they're so important to the show early on, and as they've developed, we've kind of gotten away from, Will being horrified by these monsters and followed by the monsters, which people expect to come back in season 5. But I still think they've been solid, and the early seasons, they were just so important that I had to put them on this list. At number 9, I have Nancy and Jonathan, which out of all these duos I have on the list moving forward, they probably have the most screen time because seasons 1 through 3, you'll be hard pressed to find them apart for a very long period of time. They don't start the show together, of course. Nancy, is kind of on and off with Steve, but eventually she moves on to Jonathan as, they kind of have more similar mindsets and are, wanting the same things, searching for the same things. And I think they have an interesting relationship, one that keeps me engaged throughout seasons 1 through 3. Obviously, they're apart across the country in season 4, so there's not much there for them. But I think they're two solid characters individually that have been solid together all the way through. And, they just don't have a lot of flair, so I don't have them any higher. But I really like this relationship. My favorite moment would either be when they're fighting the Demogorgon in season 1 at the Byers' house, or in season 3 when they're fighting the human flesh version of the Mind Flayer at the hospital. Very intense scenes. At number 8, I have Dustin and Lucas. Obviously, these two are within the core group of 4 boys, Dustin, Lucas, Mike, and Will, and I think these two are my favorite duo within that group. I know they're probably not usually thought of as a duo because, you just think of all the 4 boys, but for me, these two kind of detach from the group sometimes, especially in season 2, and I really like, how they bounce off of each other. They're very funny together. They're very good at solving problems together. I feel they have similar knowledge of science. Obviously, they're all nerds. And, Mike helps a lot with the mystery stuff too. But I think when you put Dustin and Lucas's brains together, especially in this group, they come up with some really good solutions to problems. Early on in the show, there are these ornery little kids that, get in playful little fights with each other that are really entertaining. And then as we grow with them, as the show progresses, you see them together a lot in season 4 too. And like I said earlier, they're solving problems, figuring out who Vecna is together and figuring out how to talk to the others in the Upside Down, doing a lot of important things together, a lot of, action scenes together and getting caught by the police. I just love every scene that they're together in, and they're really funny together. My favorite moments between these two would be the couple times where Dustin does his little purr thing, because he has his new pearls, his new teeth in front, and he's really proud of it. And Lucas just looks at him like, "What are you doing, man?" At number 7, I have Dustin and Eddie, a duo who I think a lot of people would have higher. I personally value having people on screen throughout a lot of the seasons, and unfortunately, Eddie only lasted with us for one season, and it was the most recent season, season 4. Nevertheless, these two had undeniable chemistry, both from an acting standpoint and just the characters themselves, how they're written. But they also have some really epic scenes together. For instance, when Eddie is playing his guitar in the Upside Down to draw the bats away from the others, Dustin is right by his side, and they're really excited afterward about how exciting the concert was. And they bring, some great levity to the show. In times of stress, they bring some humor, they bring some relaxation to the audience, and that's something that's really irreplaceable. But yeah, just really nice friends, and I love how Dustin defended Eddie even after he died and, told his uncle that, Eddie was a great person. He sacrificed himself, and Dustin was there with him from the start. He defended him from the start, saying there's no way that he killed Chrissy. And then at the end of the show, Eddie died in his arms. And I think that's going to leave a lasting impact on Dustin. And Dustin was a big reason and a big thing that supported Eddie's character arc. And so it was just a really good match. At number 6, I have Robin and Steve. And ever since Robin entered the show in season 3 at Scoops Ahoy, Robin and Steve have worked together. They've gone on adventures together. They've explored the Russian base together. They've really done everything together. You'd be hard pressed to find them apart for a long period of time in seasons 3 and 4. This is another great comedic duo, but a duo that's also just grown into a really deep friendship and a relationship where they can share their feelings with one another and help each other with each other's problems. And my favorite moment for them, which I think should be everybody's, is when Robin comes out of the closet to Steve in the bathroom at the mall, and Steve is a little confused at first and, a little upset as well, because he was actually starting to like Robin. Like, he wanted to be her boyfriend, but she's not into him. So that was a really powerful scene, really moving scene. I loved what it did for both of their characters, and it showed how much Steve has matured. Entering the top 5, at 5 I have Mike and 11, and although these two really aren't fan favorites anymore, it seems, it's undeniable what they did at the beginning of the show and how special they were. From 11 flipping the van, to saving Mike from falling off the cliff, to returning at the end of season 2 to save the whole crew and locking eyes with Mike, and everything that happened season 3, they've started to have some rough patches in their relationship. I think everything with them has been really interesting and really vital to the storyline of the show, all the way until Mike tells her that he loves her finally at the end of season 4. He finally gets the courage to say it. I honestly think it's been a well-written couple, and I don't know, I feel like some people think it's played at this point and that they aren't a good match. I disagree. I think they're a fine match that has been less interesting recently, I can admit, but the first 2 seasons of the show, they were one of the main things that drew me to the show, that made it my favorite show. And my favorite moment would be when they got to dance together at the snowball dance finally, after everything 11 and Mike, for that matter, had to go through. I thought it was a spectacular moment, probably the most heartwarming moment in the show, potentially. At number 4, I have Hopper and 11. And wow, just another duo where I saw what was going on with the writing of Hopper's character and the writing of Eleven's character as well. I think them merging was one of the best decisions the writers have made with the show. Hopper needed someone like that in his life to refill his purpose and, his reason for waking up in the morning and wanting to be a good, productive person and care for something or someone. And 11 needed that father figure that actually cared about her for the right reasons. So it was really a match made in heaven. And even though for a while, once she's staying with him, Hopper is rough around the edges, kind of gets mad at her a lot, it all comes to a great conclusion for what I think is their best moment at the end of season 2, where Hopper confesses to her that he's been way too hard on her, and that part of the reason he is this way is because he lost his daughter in the past, and he knows that 11 is in a lot of danger and he doesn't want to lose her the same way. Another great moment for the two comes at the end of season 3, when 11 is reading Hopper's note that he left for her. Unfortunately, he's not there because at the time he was presumed to be dead, but that was such an emotional scene, and 11 reading that note really broke down into tears, and it's probably the moment in the show that most consistently makes me cry on rewatch. Even though I've seen it so many times, I still can't refrain. And then in season 4, even when they're apart, the Duffers still continue to drive the point that Hopper is thinking about 11 while he's in prison. He's thinking about how he can help her, and he knows that, once this Demogorgon is alive, that this still isn't over for them, and how can he help her, even from Russia? That's really his mindset, and like I said, she's just given him this purpose that otherwise he wouldn't have had, because he was on a downward spiral after the loss of his daughter. At number 3, I have Hopper and Joyce. Now, this was kind of the wild card. I didn't really know where to put them. I do think one of the main factors that brought them up this high for me was that they've really been together throughout all the seasons. They've been working together to help or find Will. They've been working together just against the monsters in general. In season 3, they were working together against the Russians, really together the whole season with Alexei and Murray and all of that. So, and then in season 4, Joyce and Murray come to get Hopper in Russia. So Joyce and Hopper are like always together, always important to each other's storylines. And, they create really enjoyable scenes, enjoyable action scenes, especially in season 3 and 4. Enjoyable emotional scenes when Hopper's reassuring her in seasons 1 and 2. There's so many good things about them, even just like as a friendship and as a, working together partnership. But, now that they've turned into a relationship, which has felt long overdue, it's even more satisfying. And, they kissed a couple times in season 4. So things are pretty real with them. And I'm excited to see how this plays out for them moving forward in season 5 now that they've returned home with their kids, and hopefully they both make it. I don't really want to see Hopper die after already, his death being faked that hard, but that's a topic for another video, I guess. Now, to me, these top 2 are in a tier of their own. Just my personal opinion, of course, this whole thing is. But at number 2, I have Lucas and Max. Lucas and Max in season 4, I'm going to be honest, really set themselves apart for me. I just love what they turned into. I loved how it seems like Lucas is always concerned about Max and understands her more than anyone else. It seems like from her going to counseling, from her, being at home with her mother, nothing else, was a good remedy for her except for I think she needed Lucas back in her life. He kind of sparked her happiness again. You saw her smile, and he even comments like, I miss seeing that smile. I think it's in season 4, episode 5, when they're at the Creel house and he's playing the piano. Just so many good wholesome moments, and it felt so satisfying as the audience to see Lucas kind of help pull her out of the rut she's been in, even though of course she's not out of danger and she's not completely out of that mind frame, but he just helps, and seems to be the only thing that can help her with that. And I'm just a sucker for couples and shows in general, especially ones that are well done, of course, and I think these two are written really well together from the start. And like I said, I feel like Lucas is kind of just the person that Max can lean back on. She can rely on him. She can trust him. She confides in him in season 2 to tell her problems of her past life and with how rude Billy is to her. And she kind of even makes it clear afterward that she doesn't usually open up and cry like that in front of other people, but Lucas made her feel so comfortable even before they were officially a relationship. And then at the start of season 4, he can tell something's wrong with Max. And I really just think, he's the person that is always there for her. And he was there, trying to save her in my favorite scene between the two when Max dies and then, is eventually resurrected by 11, which is controversial, but it's okay because I think the scene of her death was spectacular, and the acting from Kayla MacLachlan and Sadie Sink in that scene is also spectacular. It would have been honestly maybe my favorite scene in the show if they hadn't brought her back to life. It's still like top 3 or 5, but wow, that was just such an emotionally charged scene, one that had me crying even harder than Hopper's letter. And it was so well acted, so well written. The fact that she's saying, I don't want to die after all this doubt she's had in her mind, throughout the whole season since the events went down with Billy, she's now saying like she doesn't want to die. She's not ready for this. And, Lucas is obviously just so heartbroken that this is happening. So I talked a while about these two, but I just love them as a couple. I wanted to maybe put them at 1, but I think there's a pretty obvious number 1 that I couldn't pass up. But Lucas and Max are goated. I have them at number 2. And at number 1, I have Steve and Dustin. And I'm sure that was pretty expected, pretty standard here, but Steve and Dustin are undeniably one of the best written and most unexpected duos in the show. If you look at where they started at, when the show began, they really had no correlation between each other. And now all of a sudden, season 2, season 3 rolls around, they're best friends. I think I used this term earlier as well, but they really are just a comedic match made in heaven. They're bickering, and the way they play off each other's lines, I think it's just so witty and so entertaining. And I really just love both of them. I think they're two of the best people, have two of the best hearts in this show. And, of course, Steve has grown a lot from where his character began. Dustin, hasn't had the most character development per se, but he's just always been a steadying presence in terms of, his heart and his smarts and what he can do for the crew. And, you put these two together, Dustin smarts, Steve's a little bit of a jock, associated with being dumb, but he's, he has a different type of intelligence too. And, you put them together, they do a lot of really cool things, fighting against the Russians in season 3 and against Vecna and in the Upside Down in season 4. And really, they've just had so many moments of comedic gold, and they really just feel like best buddies that are so comfortable with each other. And, that's what I want to see in a character duo. And it really just feels like they're best friends in real life. And that's what I want to see. I want to see things that feel real, I want to actually feel their relationship. I don't want it to seem forced. That's what I want to see in a character duo, and they give me everything I want to see. My favorite moment between these two actually would just be when they became friends in season 2, walking down a trail in the woods, putting out some, bait for the Demogorgons. And then, they just got into having some deep conversations. And Steve became kind of like a relationship mentor for Dustin, who at that time had a crush on Max. So Steve would give him advice. And I just thought, from that point forward, they really had such a wholesome relationship. That was a wholesome moment. Steve became a little more vulnerable, and that was definitely a turning point for his character. So this duo did so much for Steve, and it's done a lot for the show ever since because they've just had incredible moments and incredible chemistry with each other ever since. So that does it for my top 10 Stranger Things character duos. Let me know your favorite duo in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe below. I'll have a lot more Stranger Things content coming about season 5, especially as it approaches, and I'll keep you updated on all the news as far as set picks and things like that. Drop your favorite duos below, and until next time, I'll see you later.